National Women's Rights Convention by Claudia Hidalgo, Ana Tanda, Kevin Hernandez, and Jaylene Labastida Osorio.
The National Women's Rights Convention, which first took place in 1850, was a planned annual series of events held in meetings with the goal of empowering women to unite and fight for their freedom, their rights, and equality. These events occurred continuously over time. They were held by female and male leaders to discuss and debate women's rights and equality.
In 1840, Lucretia Mott met Elizabeth Stanton when they attended the World Anti-Slavery Conference with their husbands in London. Although there was enough official delegates, 6 women, including them, were rejected from the convention merely because of their gender. After being prohibited from the conference, the pair came to an agreement to initiate a women's rights convention in America. After some time, more people joined the duo to prepare for the first national convention. Among these new people, there was Lucy Stone, Abby Kelly Foster, Paulina Ray Davis, and Harry Kesia Hunt. Stone worked as a secretary, but sadly contracted typhoid fever. Davis did most of the planning for the convention, and Elizabeth Cady Stanton ended up missing the convention because she was in late pregnancy at the time.
For the most part, the National Women's Rights Convention was inspired and influenced by the Declaration of Independence. Since it stated that all men and women are created the same, and I quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal." Close quote. The Declaration also highlighted the need to extend voting rights to women and covered things such as their property rights, protection on marriage and divorce, and the expansion of job careers.
2 years after the Savannah Falls regional event, the first National Women's Convention was held October 23rd through 24th, 1850 in Worcester, Massachusetts, organized by Elizabeth Cady Stanton, planned by after the Anti-Slavery Society meeting. On October 23rd, the meeting was extended by 900 individuals, with Paulina Keglag Wright Davis being the president. There were several women speakers such as Harriet Keziah Hunt, Ernestine Rose, Antoinette Brown, Sojourner Proof, Abby Foster Kelly, Abby Price, and Lucitia Mott, and as well as Lucy Stone, who she only spoke on the second day, which was October 4th.
There were various issues relating to women's rights discussed, such as lawmaking, systematizing laws, discussing educational opportunities, divorce reform, property rights, and sometimes labor issues. The convention demanded improved rights for women. Goals of women's rights were to have, and I quote, equal access to education and employment, equality within marriage, and a married woman's rights to her own property and wages, custody over her children, and control over her own body. Close quote. Moreover, there were many reporters that attended the convention and wrote about it. Horace Greeley was one of the reporters that took the event seriously, while others mocked it and took it as flippancy.
Shortly after the event, printed proceedings sold out, spreading awareness about women's rights. Women's rights were getting the recognition they desired. British writers such as Harriet Taylor and Harriet Martineau took note of the convention. Soon after, many American supporters were standing up for women, while others avoided it. Additionally, Black women were heavily impacted by this event due to the racism and discrimination they were facing.
Furthermore, through the years 1851 through 1856 and 1858 through 1859, there were annual national women's rights conventions around the United States. The 1860 National Women's Rights Convention that occurred, more than 1,000 participants attended. The meeting helped solve the, and I quote, support of women being able to obtain a separation or divorce from husbands who were cruel, insane, or drunk, or who deserted their wives. The resolution was controversial and did not pass. Close quote.
Along with the problems with the North and South increasing and the Civil War coming its way, the National Women's Rights Convention was suspended. In 1862, Susan B. Anthony tried to call another one, soon leading into 1863. A couple of the same women that were active in the National Women's Rights earlier called it the First National Loyal League Convention. In that convention, there was a petition that gathered over 400,000 signatures supporting the 13th Amendment, abolishing the system of enslavement and involuntary servitude as a consequence for a crime.
About 70 years after numerous conventions, the nation confirmed the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote in 1920. This was a huge accomplishment of feminist leaders in the 1950s and 60s. Therefore, as time went by, women were slowly obtaining equal opportunities and better personal freedom. In addition to fairer wages, education, sex education, and birth control.
Therefore, the National Women's Rights Convention was a planned annual series of events held in meetings with the goal of empowering women to unite and fight for their freedom, rights, and equality. More than 900 men and women came together to form the nation's first Women's Rights Convention. During the first convention, the women's suffrage movement was created, and the Declaration of Sentiments was signed off by 100 other attendees. Sadly, the fight for equal rights wasn't as easy as many women wanted, but many years later, the 19th Amendment was passed and granted women the right to vote. Achieving this milestone required a long and difficult fight, but all those decades of distress and protest paid off at the end.